Sports fans, welcome to the epicenter of Nostalgia Mania here live at the On the Money Sports Lounge on podcast night. Welcome to the push for the playoffs in Major League Baseball as we get through these last couple weeks of the summertime and head into the fall. And as we get closer to fall, welcome to pre-NFL season starting here in the middle of August. We've got training camp. We've had preseason playoff games. Ayuk Watch is still in full effect. And tonight is episode 2 of the 5-part edition, the yearly tradition from On the Money Sports, our divisional breakdowns where we go around every single division. 4 episodes where we pick the East, South, North, West of the AFC and the NFC, culminating in our playoff and predictions for the 2024 season, with an added little bonus of some NFL future bets that we're going to put in right before the season starts, because I haven't done my research for that yet. But before we get into all that, as always, beside me, adjusting his gimmick, drinking his caramel culotta, none other
s'mores
than Oscar
But
O'Money
I think it
Muniz.
is caramel. I think he got so mad at me, he just said, BS, you get what I give you.
You get what I give you, and
Because all I heard
keep
is,
it pushing.
oh my God.
He did not remember all the things that you said to him. Like,
No,
you hit
'cause
him
he
with
was-
3 completely different orders, and I saw he was holding the cups in his hand, and he was just looking at you like,
He was befuddled.
yeah, like, you're gonna get whatever I put in here, pal.
Yeah.
I'll make it taste good at least. But
The guy Dunkin' Donuts was overcome with emotion.
he was in the weeds. On the Money Sports is in the weeds right now because we are getting all these conflicting reports. A busy day of training camp and NFL news. Coincidentally, a lot of news pertaining to players from teams of the divisions that we're going to be breaking down tonight. So we kind of have an episode that's kind of like an onion with multiple layers that we can dive into from the realistic perspective because of players' health, as far as that, and also the injury aspect of fantasy and what that does for your drafts coming up. My draft coming up this week. Like,
A lot of people were brave drafting this past weekend. I will say that much. I think you're a little more braver drafting this weekend coming up again.
it's coming.
I understand if you start drafting around next weekend because more or less starters don't play as much in that third preseason game anymore because now coaches are treating preseason game number 2 like the old preseason game number 3.
Yeah.
Preseason game number 3 more or less is to see how the fringe guys are.
Yep.
Who's on the bubble? Who's almost got the spot, but the guy that's on the fringe just comes through and has an unbelievable showing to go on top of that unbelievable camp he had.
You got training camp
That
battles.
pushes that veteran guy out via releases or trades.
Injuries, trades. So news broke about a potential Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons from the Patriots. They're dealing with something right now, so we might be able to break some type of trade live. Might not be the IU trade, but it might be something, some morsel.
I'm so over Ayuk Watch. I'm done. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah, we have no new.
I feel like
no new updates.
I feel like Michael Scott when vasectomy. No, breathe through it. No, get the vasectomy. Snip, snap, snip, snap. I'm done.
There's not much new to add to it.
It's either piss or get off the pot, bro. It goes for Brandon Ayuk. It goes for John Lynch. Because now all of a sudden the holdup is he's agreed to a contract with them except for one part. They only want to give him 3 years. He wants 4 years. And that means more guaranteed money. So they're still far apart in guaranteed money. I saw an interesting thing where it said $28 million in Pittsburgh's $28 million. $28 million in California is really $31 million. So he'd have to get signed to a $31 million a year contract to be able to get that $28 million a year because of taxes and income tax and all that in the state of California. So that's a holdup. But I'm just over it, bro. We're getting to the point where the Steelers got to just say, listen, dude, we need an answer by, tomorrow, because preseason week number 2 is happening. Everybody who's going to be on our roster needs to be on our roster now, because we just can't do this.
I might take that approach in Dynasty too, because I sent out an offer, a conversation that's been going on for a while now. I sent the offer out hours ago, and the person's liberating on it, but I'm just going to be like, look, man, if we can't figure this out and get this done, let's just keep it pushing. Let's move on. It's training camp right now. I got to line up my ducks. I got to see who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. So I might have to take the same approach that the Steelers are going to have to take when it comes to Brandon Ayuk watch. The latest I've heard is that he prefers to stay now with San Francisco. So
he can't make his mind
up. There's no place like home. Yeah, he's really,
one day he doesn't want to be there, next day he wants to be there. Like you two, bro. You can't sit here and be like, send me out, give me my money, and then I want to, like, you can't do that either. So you're just as wrong. However, I will say it's just as wrong on the 49ers part to sit there and not try to pay the guy. But understand, when you pay him, you got to eventually pay Trent Williams, and you got to pay Brock Purdy. You got to pay Dre Greenlaw. Like, there's a lot of key cogs in that wheel that need to get paid in the next year.
Agreed.
And
Absolutely
Purdy's
agreed.
going to take about $60 a year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there goes a chunk of the cap right there. So that means if Ayuk gets signed, that means next offseason, Debo most likely gets cut or traded. Because you're not going to have all that money to sign the rest of those guys.
Can't keep everybody.
But at this point, I believe Ayuk's staying. I do.
Yeah. And last week, we did our breakdown for how we thought it was going to play out in the NFC West, AFC West. We got, the Chiefs on top. No surprise there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we both think very highly of the Los Angeles Rams and think that the Rams can, go make things a little bit more complicated for San Francisco in the NFC West compared to the last couple of years, as well as a up-and-coming spunky Arizona Cardinals team that, Kyler Murray is now healthy, new offense, new look. Marvin Harrison's there in the fold, and they've got wild card potential written all over them. A lot of the teams tonight had that same sort of wild card feel to them. A lot of
there's going to be a lot
where, and a couple of divisions that could send multiple teams to the playoffs, which makes the divisional race all the more interesting when you have a lot of contenders coming from, the same region. There's things I like. There's things I don't like. A lot of reports coming out, unfortunately, for the Minnesota Vikings, which kind of makes this booking a little bit easier for me with the NFC side. J.J. McCarthy was the first big piece of news, us not being able to see the rookie this year. Him not knowing that he's done for the year and that we're not going to see what he can do in a year where, a lot of the other rookies that came in, the rookie quarterbacks, could potentially be getting their opportunity.
Live on the podcast. This hurts. Can I put him on the injured reserve and open a taxi spot? Nope.
Not yet. We might be able to soon. Of course, Money has J.J. McCarthy on the Dynasty team. It's only a matter of time before he is IR eligible. Of course, use those IR spots. You give yourself an open spot on your bench that you could use, because this is the time of year where you're scanning your football team fantasy-wise.
What up, Chris?
And you're scanning the waiver wire. You're looking to see what value you have. You're looking at the bottom of your roster and seeing who you can cut ties with, training camp battles that aren't going so well for certain players. And, you realize you're holding on to a lot of guys that aren't even going to be on the roster. Like,
a lot of dead
weight. You do your cleanup. You do your due diligence, because in a couple of weeks, you're going to have to be figuring out, the first couple of weeks are always the hardest as far as how you want to set your lineup and who you're going to have out there. So make sure you have all these clogs sitting in your bench spots. And today, in one of your bench spots, if you play Dynasty, if you play Superflex, maybe a guy by the name of Sam Darnold, who all of a sudden is sounding like he is going to be the QB1 of the Minnesota Vikings for now. I guess we can have a conversation as far as how many weeks.
You're going to regret not doing this trade, dog.
He
regrets it so much. He got him in the waiver wires, and now he can be a starter, and he's got a stack.
And Nick Mullins is going to be the QB2.
Chris got a stack now.
So, what with Darnold?
Yeah.
You got Sam Darnold, and you've got Nick Mullins. I'm sorry, you got Nick Mullins as the QB 1 and 2 in Minnesota, which leads to an interesting conversation about Justin Jefferson and potentially where he falls in the draft this year.
So, a fantasy question: should a 16-person with 4 hours per pick with 26 rounds be illegal for a fantasy league? My father dumped doing his that started Saturday noon with those turns still going in the 7th round. That's bullshit.
That's wild. Is that a dynasty league?
I would quit that league in a heartbeat.
That's right.
There's no reason for 4. I don't even care if you don't get along together. I don't care if you can't. It's an online draft.
You
2 minutes a pick, man.
You're not gonna get that done until the third to last week, fourth to last week of August.
Yeah.
Right. When is that draft actually gonna end? That's torture right there.
You're only in the 7th round. You still got 9 more rounds to go.
I thought our rookie draft was bad with the timer that we set. And this is also when it comes to pruning your rosters, you also have to prune.
We did a 24-hour clock, which was stupid too.
Yeah.
There was no reason a 4-round rookie draft needed to take 4 days. Especially the ones who kept bitching and saying we need to do this draft now were the ones that took forever to pick.
Hours.
What?
I had my picks within the hour pretty much.
I know 2 people right off the bat that it took 8, 6, 7 hours to make a pick, but they were the same 2 people saying we need to do this draft now. Hello? Hello?
I'm so glad.
If you can't pick in 2 minutes, then get the hell out. It's online. It's even showing you the best of the best. There's not much thinking going on in an online draft.
There's a lot of overthinking.
Unless you're sitting there trying to get your sleepers in the 2nd or 3rd round pick.
There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of overthinking that tends to happen. It's all fun and games when you're doing the mocks, but when you're having to go up to the board yourself.
I said this season would start by the time they would finish.
It's a different ball game.
They'd be trying to upload their rosters at Sunday 10 o'clock.
That's too much, man.
On September 7th.
I got my drafts lined up. I got my online drafts. I got my live drafts. I got my first live draft this Sunday, the South Jersey Brawlers League draft, where I will be picking 10th. What's going on, Sean? What's going on, player? I've got the
League of Shadows. Is the grand prize a trophy of Ra's al? Is the grand prize a McFarlane figure of Ra's al Ghul in that league? Echeverria needs to answer that for me. Does the person not only get a championship trophy, but does he also get a Ra's al Ghul figure?
Mike D, thank you for the bit of news, the little gem that you dropped. If
you're on the clock, Lauer, I'm not picking until I sit down. Just saying. Well, then don't be the ones crying about we need to do the draft. Hello?
So, Mike D hit us with a bit of news before we went live. Apparently, the Minnesota Vikings are inquiring about Derek Carr from the New Orleans Saints as far as how much it'll cost to bring him over and potentially not have Sam Darnold be the week 1 starter for the Minnesota Vikings. You could look at this in a lot of different ways. How much validity there is to
I think they probably asked, but I doubt it's happening. There's a lot of money tied up in that Derek Carr contract.
There is.
And it sounds like the Saints are trying to win. I'm not saying Derek Carr is a winner like that.
They're competing.
But I'm saying,
in a winnable division, they are competing. What up, Chris? What's going on, Rob? Terrell, everybody's checking in right now. Appreciate you guys. Rose in the building. Sean's in the building. It's draft season. We're talking strategy. We're talking teams. We're talking about potential implications with the Minnesota Vikings. And not just the Minnesota Vikings, but, a guy who the last couple of years has been synonymous with the 101 in a lot of your draft boards, none other than Justin Jefferson. He kind of took that spot from McCaffrey. Would you still take him as a top 3 pick? I would still
take him. He's an elite talent is an elite talent no matter what.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Still Justin Jefferson. And people might be pushing the panic button on him, but stats are stats. And last year he averaged 1 more fantasy point ever. He had a 24 fantasy points per game average without Kirk Cousins. With Kirk Cousins, it was closer to 23. 23 to 22, like more or less a full point higher as far as his fantasy production weekly with the guys like the Nick Mullins of the world. And he did miss a fair amount of time with his injury situation.
Sam Darnold's going to get the ball to him.
Yeah. I mean, if the thing doesn't go through with Derek Carr, it's Sam Darnold. And I could see Sam Darnold getting the ball to him. The question is going to be how many weeks before Sam Darnold turns into Nick Mullins, turns back into Sam Darnold. Like, let's just start with the basement and work our way up. I've got the Vikings in the basement of the NFC North, in part because of this. I was already skeptical about what they were going to look like this year. I think
so was I.
The division's going to be a little too much.
I thought it was going to be a third place finish, but after the news today, I think I'm. Spoiler alert: they're finishing last in the North.
I've got the Vikings last. I've got them at 5-12 because I love my boy Sam Darnold, but come on, like this does not bode well for them. Jordan Addison went down today. Apparently, it's not that serious, but it's one of those things where things ain't looking all good in training camp, and now you're not going to be able to see what your rookie quarterback can do. So the Vikings, they should just punt the season. Take the draft pick, right? You got your pick next year. We're talking about another candidate for potential top 5 in the NFL draft next year. I'm putting the Minnesota Vikings officially in that grouping. I think that they finish with a record of 5-12. They take this year off and see, get your rookie healthy and see what the guy can do in his second year next year. He's your starter. You're not tied to him right now, but you're still going to be able to have that fresh start next year. This team looks to be snake bitten right now. We already know who's going to be at the top of this division. We know that, the Packers are a wild card team, and Minnesota just doesn't fit that equation right now to me.
I'll say this. What Sean just said, Vikings owner is doing the Wolverine meme looking at a picture of Cousins. Kirk Cousins didn't speak not too long ago where he said if he knew the plan was to draft Penix, that he may have not have jumped the horse to hurry up and sign with Atlanta.
Yeah, well, you truly never really know what the plan is with the Atlanta Falcons. That's their brand. You never really know what the plan is. They drafted Bijan Robinson 8th overall last year when they needed so many things.
They needed a line.
They needed everything.
They drafted Kyle Pitts. They needed a line. They drafted Drake London. They needed a line. Not saying that, Matt Ryan proved to be a bust. Like, Matt Ryan proved to be done when he went to the Colts. I will say that.
It's tough, man. It was tough. He was past his prime right there. People were on that hype train.
Did you read the other report? I know we discussed the Raiders last week and how we both think they're either going to be a third or a fourth place team.
Yeah.
Did you see the one article about how the Raiders GM had offered a big ass package to the Texans to move up to the second spot to select CJ Stroud? And Josh McDaniels voided it. Said no. Wow. Another reason why Josh McDaniels is no longer a head coach in the NFL.
And not to harp back on the team that we talked about last week, but look at their quarterback options now. It's Gardner Minshew and it's O'Connell.
That he hitched his wagon to Jimmy Garoppolo. He said Jimmy would take them where they needed to go.
Yeah. And where was that? How far did Jimmy take them? That's been tried already. It's time to move on for some of these teams.
So I saw that, and I thought that was interesting. Stroud with LA would have been crazy.
Yep.
With Devontae Adams, they might even keep Josh Jacobs and not let him walk. With that squad,
I think the Raiders find their quarterback before the Broncos do. When you look at the Raiders football team,
they're saying Bo Nix is playing unbelievable so far.
Yeah, because you're basing it off of who his competition is at training camp, and good for him. He's definitely the most skilled of those three guys. And not for nothing, if you're gonna throw the rookie to the wolves anyway, it's nice to see that he's out there making plays. Where he's gonna, the Broncos might, little push.
Rojas got to go.
You're not a Rojas guy? Philly's up right now, 6-5 on the Marlins, trying to get their groove back here as we are live breaking
Still
down
ain't
the
getting
division.
her groove back.
The dance is over. And, and for the Minnesota Vikings,
the way their body language is right now, I don't see it.
And for the Minnesota Vikings right now, I don't know if they're ever going to find a rhythm with everything happening right now for them. I think they go 5-12. They are bottom feeders in NFC that could potentially be too much for them because of their situation. And it's going to be interesting to see how far down draft boards in the first round Justin Jefferson goes in leagues with the information that we have now, because if nothing changes, you're looking at Sam Darnold as the starter for the Vikings. You're looking at potentially, let's say you did your drawing for your fantasy league already. You've got the third pick. What happens when, let's say the first two picks are Christian McCaffrey, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, where do you pivot to from there? Or Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb. After that, it's like there's Jamar Chase there. There's Breece Hall. How many names are you going to allow to go in front of Justin Jefferson before you take a shot at them? Yeah, it's almost like
everybody's saying that now, but if you're at pick number 6 and he's on the board still, you're not going to take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's
I don't care who you are. It's
a gift triggering them. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be even more fun this year with football, messing with the Eagles.
He already proved a great point by saying he scored just as much without Kirk Cousins in the lineup.
Yeah, statistically, he had more fantasy points. He averaged one whole
My magazine's upstairs, so I can't go off of his stats last year. Remember, he missed, 4 weeks? 5 weeks?
And not just fantasy scoring numbers. Let's look at the schedule, which is what we've been doing now since we have our fantasy books here. And to start the season, the Vikings have the New York Football Giants. So for all you Giants fans who think that this football team is going to be hot shit this year, there you go. You got a Vikings team that you're going up against Sam Darnold most likely. So
12-5, right?
If you can't handle that, then we'll see.
We keep getting told 12-5.
Followed by, they've got San Francisco, Houston, Green Bay, and the Jets. 4 in a row before their bye week. And then after the bye, they have Detroit, Rams, Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee.
They could beat Jacksonville.
And then you got Chicago, Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago.
They'll split with Chicago.
Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. So week 10, it gets a little lighter.
Upset somebody near the end.
But by the time they're pulling those upsets, they're already going to have a losing record.
Yeah, I think they're going to be 5-12, just like you said. I think with all the injuries that are piling up, they were already a team.
Hurts, bro.
To start the offseason, right before camp, their 4th-round rookie passes away tragically in that car accident.
Yeah.
Then you get Jordan Addison 2 weeks later, pulled over for drunk driving and speeding.
Now he gets hurt today.
Then the first day of training camp, your starting cornerback goes down with an ACL. Then the next day, your other cornerback goes down with a season-ending injury. Now your future franchise quarterback is going to miss the entire season with a meniscus.
Yep.
And then today, Jordan Addison got carted off, but they're saying that it's a sprain and he should be ready to go week 1.
It should be good to go.
It got to the point where Kevin O'Donnell is screaming at the Browns like, "Yo, this is a scrimmage. What are we doing? Tone down the physicality." The Browns don't know how to tone it down because don't worry, I got something for them soon too.
Oh boy. But anyway.
But I agree. I thought the team was already shaky to begin with.
Yes.
I thought defensively there was already some holes there.
They were already
suspect. Offensively they would struggle regardless. I figured there would be a lot of garbage time, and that's why Jefferson's numbers would still be good. I think Aaron Judge.
Captain of your baseball team?
Yeah. I thought Aaron Jones was not going to have a year like people think. Like, I'm probably staying off the Aaron Jones bandwagon this year on fantasy.
And that's another thing, too. On top of all the injuries.
I'm pretty sure my dad might be actually staying off the Aaron Jones bandwagon this year, too, because he kind of hinted it to me.
Not feeling Aaron Jones this year?
I don't see much with the Vikings this year. I think they're going to be about a 4-13 or a 5-12 team.
This year was all about seeing what your rookie had anyway. So there was a good chance that they weren't going to be a playoff team regardless. You were going to have JJ come out there after, in October, November, whatever the case is. Now he's scratched. So you're looking at this as, okay, where do we stand as far as next season going into that draft and acquiring some of the pieces that we were planning to add to this team anyway to help develop this young quarterback? They still really don't know if he's the guy, and they're not going to get a chance to figure that out this year, you know? So how do we find that bridge, and what's the over-under for the amount of games we want to win so that we don't lose out on a good position come next April when we're talking about the 2025 NFL draft?
Mm-hmm.
They're in a different space than some of the other football teams that we're going to talk about tonight, because I can't see a way around this. Like, I can't see a way around the scheduling, the injuries.
The schedule's bad. The injuries are bad. It's just going to be one of those years, and I can see the head coach maybe being part of the chopping block.
Like you said, I think that this football team could be great garbage time fantasy points.
Here's one thing. I mean, it's going to be brutal this year.
You pick the right pieces.
But you're going to pick high in the draft, so you already picked your franchise quarterback that you believe. You've already got your franchise wide receiver, your franchise tight end. Oh, yeah. He's not even going to be back for like the first half of the season.
Yeah.
So you're going to probably be picking in the top 3, top 4. You don't got to get a quarterback. So say you finish with the worst record in the league this year and you get the number 1 overall pick, someone's going to fall in love with whoever the quarterback is coming out this year from the college class. So if you're the Vikings and you got 1, 2, or 3, you can get a plethora amount of picks.
The fleece, yeah. You get more making the right trade than you would using that first round pick overall.
Yeah,
because
so
who would you get? An offensive lineman or something?
Listen, the goal should be in 3 years contending for the division and winning a playoff game. This year's going to be bad. Next year's going to be bad. By year 3, you should be where you need to be.
Now, with this next football team, they were a darling of the podcast for a little bit. You know, you had the whole Justin Fields situation and everything. And you see what they've done this year. They've clearly bought themselves more time as far as their jobs. They're probably not going to get fired this year for this, but if this doesn't work out, you got about 2 years to figure out where your next location is going to be as far as like where you're going to work.
It's a new head coach, right?
No, Eberflus is still there. It's Eberflus and Stone. That's right.
This is going to be Eberflus' second year.
They're in this together. The GM and the coach they're in this together. The owner,
Poles is This will be Poles' what, 3rd year?
Poles, there he is.
Ryan Poles, okay. I think his 3rd or 4th season.
So you trade away Justin Fields, okay? After all this shit with him the last couple of years, now it's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is getting the pieces that Justin Fields never had for that offense. You've got the kid coming in. He's starting, 1st overall pick. You've got a 3 wide receiver set. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift. The pieces are in place.
Keenan, yeah, I read about that too, Mikey. That he's overweight by like 20 pounds, 30 pounds. Shit. And that he looks disinterested right now.
That's perfect. You go into the perfect place, because that's just what they need, is somebody who's disinterested to be there when they're trying to make this push and this turnaround, and jobs are on the line. Rookie's career is potentially on the line. And I'm talking about these Chicago Bears. And as of right now, I think the Chicago Bears go 7-10. I think that.
No, did you copy my notes?
I think the Chicago Bears go 7-10. I think that there are going to be some bright spots in Chicago. But hold your horses. They're going to show you they're clearly not a playoff team. However, this could be one of those football teams that, you know, once the pressure of like knowing you're going to miss the playoffs is out of the way, you can just play games. And I think
asked the question to these podcasts right there, as you can see right now. Where do you think the NFC North will go?
Breaking
Chris, our area resident Jets fan, has said Packers or Detroit, either 1 or 2. Bears, Vikings. Mikey has said Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota.
Pretty much what I have. But for the Bears, there's going to be some bright spots. I think it's routine to shit on them and to make fun of Caleb Williams and all he was crying and to say negative things and all they're going to suck. Like, it's easy to take
I
that
watched
approach.
him cry a lot after losing in USC.
Now that we're doing the official breakdown for the 2024 season, this is the stuff I gotta, I'm dying on the hill for the things that I'm putting down on here. These are my official picks. I'm gonna be a little optimistic about these Bears. I'm not saying they're gonna make the playoffs. I'm saying they're gonna go 7-10. They're gonna lose more than they win, and you're gonna be able to more or less see like what this kid can do. I will say this: like, gone were the days where, with the amount of talent they have on the offensive side of the football, like, we're not going to be seeing the Bears struggle to score 14 points. We shouldn't. There's no way.
Yeah,
there's no way.
There should
like,
be no reason.
With everything you have there, DJ Moore being DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, if he can get his mind right, and if Rome Odunze, similar to Marvin Harrison, is everything that they say he is, you're going to be able to move that football. Not to mention a DeAndre Swift, who did pretty good last year. So yeah, I've got 7-10 for the Chi-Town Bears.
I have 7-10 as well. I believe Caleb will struggle. However, the weapons around him, he will start to see some success near the end of the season. The defense needs to be big throughout the whole year if they want to be able to contend and try to win football games. I could see a strong December for the Bears to give them hope for the 2025 season. I could see where they're like 4-10 at some point, or 4-9, and then they just go on a stretch and go 3-1 down the stretch, and
they play spoiler.
They give teams, give your fans some hope to go into next year.
You win your last game in Chicago
Williams
or something.
Shuts me up and proves that he's a NFL quarterback, and you get what you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think this might be the best Bears team assembled. And it sucks for Justin Fields because he finally brought all these players aligned, like
everything they could have done.
And you shipped them out.
Didn't do. So if Caleb Williams is the drizzling shits, then what?
If Caleb Williams
You're
shits the bed and Justin Fields gets to start and win football games in Pittsburgh, it's gonna look real bad in
7-10 is me
Chicago.
7-10 is me being super optimistic about the
Bears this year. Like, I really wanted to write 6-11, 5.
I'm just looking at it from the perspective of there's a lot of talent on this football field, and I've got their schedule here. They're going through like the AFC South early. They've got our game week 1, then you've got Houston, you've got Indy, you've got the Rams. And you've got a little stretch where you're playing Carolina, Jacksonville, Washington, Arizona, New England. So that could be a little spot right there where you start. Maybe Chicago's like 4-4. Like they go 4-4.
We'll see the promise.
And then from there it'll be Green Bay, Minnesota. Oh, okay, yeah. This is where it ends. You've got Detroit, San Francisco, a game with Minnesota, then Detroit again. Followed by Seattle, Green Bay. So, and with Green Bay, it's never going to work out well for them. The Sun God will be the best fantasy wide receiver in that division this year. I love it, Mike. I love it. And I think I would like to double down on that take, sir, because I think he is going to have an incredible season. His football team is going to have an incredible year, not to jump ahead, but next to the Detroit Lions, I put the phrase, the sky is the limit for this football team. After what we saw last year
and then
into this year, like, the sky is the limit for that football team. I guess this is kind of like the Miss Universe pageant where you talk about 1 before 2. However it goes, I've got Green Bay right now at 9-8. Because
I'm going to take him at 2 in one of my drafts this year.
I would. I mean, if people are willing to still take Justin Jefferson at 2 with everything that we know, why not take Amon-Ra St. Brown at 2 in an established offense where he is going to be getting the same amount, if not more targets than CeeDee Lamb gets, which is like 16 to 17 sometimes. Like, you've got the carries on top of that, like everything that he brings to the table and how he stretches that field and how he and Laporta are going to be able to play off of each other.
Sam Laporta.
And you take him at 2. If you're in the 2 spot, it's going to be a while before you're drafting again. You're not going to get that opportunity at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going in the first round. He is a first-round pick.
And if he doesn't go in the first round, he's going in the second round in the beginning stages.
Like, You gotta think like people are looking at the
only
board.
drafts a guy like Amon St. Brown won't go in the first round is in the 2 QB league.
I think that
where the majority of teams are going to pick their quarterback, their QB1s in the first round.
People are going to be scared about the Jahmyr Gibbs injury, and I think that helps Sun God go up the charts, if anything, because they want the most valuable piece of that offense. They wanted like the most valuable, healthy piece of that offense, I should say. So, don't be surprised you see Jahmyr Gibbs start sliding down some of the fantasy boards. That's another question you have to ask. Like, how long before you take him at a value?
The Phillies are desperate. They put Casty at the number 2 spot.
But for the Green Bay Packers, I think it's going to be a little bit more or less of what we saw last year. I think that the Green Bay Packers in the right setting, they can turn it on. Like, I think the Packers are the type of team where they get hot late, they get into the playoffs, they can eliminate a team with the talent that they have. But I think that it's going to be a mission for them to get to the playoffs. I think regular season Packers and playoff Packers are two different animals, and I can easily see the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles like fighting for that 6th, 7th seed in the hunt, because
right.
they're.
You made a spoil prediction earlier before we even started this that the Eagles would be a 9-8 team.
Yeah, and I got the Packers at 9-8. I've got them in that same tier more or less because throughout the regular season, I mean, we saw it like it wasn't pretty with the Green Bay Packers. Like the Green Bay Packers had their moment where they beat Dallas.
Listen,
they charged up.
Jordan Love was terrible in the first half of the season.
It was drizzling shits.
Jordan Love didn't start turning it up until that Detroit Lions Thanksgiving Day game.
And maybe he's a second half guy. That's kind of what I'm banking on right now. Like where they do just enough. They go 9-8. They get their wild card spot. They make
Bryce is finally freaking.
They make
job.
the 3 seed.
Get my batting average up.
They make the 3 seed uncomfortable. Or the 2 seed, whoever they get
like Love was terrible, and then when the Thanksgiving game happened, when they upset the Lions, where we thought the Lions were going to sweep them, they just the Lions had no answer for big play threats because Christian Watson decided to play that game, was having a really good game, and that's my notes right here is Love was bad to start the season. It was around Thanksgiving he put it together. Josh Jacobs should help them in the ground and the air because he can do both. But will Watson stay healthy and be the weapon we believe he can be? If not, does Jaden Reed continue his succession up the hill like he did last year? Or is it, or is it Dontavian Wicks who comes through?
What I'm saying. There's a lot of mouths to feed out there.
And then you got Romeo Doubs who faded into obscurity last year.
Like Dobbs and Watson got to stay healthy because those other kids can take, and then you got Bo Melton who's over there. Like those other kids can take their spot.
I believe Melton's from this area, if I'm not mistaken.
Bo Melton's a beast. Like Jaden Reed, like the guys that you mentioned, like they're if I'm the Packers, I'm looking at it now like
and AJ Dillon is no longer with them either.
I think he's still there.
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought he went to the Colts.
No, he's still there. If I'm the Packers, I'm looking at it like how much could I get for Christian Watson right now? Like I can keep Jaden Reed, I can keep Romeo Doubs, I can keep.
Someone's going to pay for Watson.
Like,
hell, I would. I'd give him a crack.
If you're the Packers, would you though? Would you invest in that? The hammy and he's a hell of a talent. Don't get me wrong, but you're talking about a crowded wide receiver room right now, young wide receiver room. You don't have to pay those other guys just yet. You're gonna attach yourself to this injury-prone vehicle when you can kind of see what you can get for him. Potentially get yourself an even bigger wide receiver name.
He is still with them. I'm sorry, guys. I just wanted
to double check. They only had a bad preseason game. Mikey sees it more or less how I'm seeing it as far as the Packers, making games a little more difficult for themselves.
Is that the real love we got in the second half? Or was it the real love we got in the first half?
We'll see. I'm betting on them heating up late. I'm betting on them heating up late and potentially kind of doing what they did last year and unseating. Hey, we could potentially see Packers versus Lions part 3. Like if the Lions don't win the NFC, Lions are playing a wild card weekend. They're hosting. And the Packers could end up being that team that comes to town and definitely makes things uncomfortable for you because that's one thing. Like we're high on Detroit, but you have a division game like that in the first round of the playoffs against a Packers team that we saw what they did to the Cowboys. Like that definitely has all the makings for a huge upset. And RJ would never let anybody hear the end of it as far as everybody who picked Detroit.
All right, listen, Detroit's still
And yeah, at the top of our list is Detroit Lions. They got it all, man. What's going on, Jason? Detroit Lions have it all. They've got the veteran quarterback who knows what it's like to play in a Super Bowl. That can actually help, not just a veteran quarterback that knows what it's like to be in the Super Bowl, but he can help your bigger stars on offense be stars. He can give Laporta the opportunity to have, 3 touchdowns in a game? He can give Sun God the opportunity to have 160 yards receiving. Jahmyr Gibbs. Jared Goff in that offense helps to keep everything, flowing. And I think as long as their defense can hold up on their end.
Because I just love looking at this one number.
And if that defense is able to make it hard to run the football, we're talking about one of the most top 3 complete teams in the league for Detroit. 14 games in a dome this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm counting right now on my fingers.
14. Mikey said it. I was reading it as he said it.
Out of 17.
And you know what that means for golf, and you know what that means for a football team like the Lions. Not to mention, I've got them going 12-5. So if that 12-5 is a 1 seed 12-5, we're talking about the entire NFC playoffs going through Detroit. Having home field.
I got them as a 2nd seed at the moment because I did give 13 wins to the Niners.
I gave the Niners 12 also. I'm still undecided as far as how I want to. I might bump one or the other. I still don't know.
I mean, I got time to take.
Definitely my top 2.
My records are not set in stone. My standings are set in stone, but my records are not. There's still room to wiggle with.
Well, if they don't choke again, I'm still mad at them for not beating the 49ers. I think a lot of us were frustrated with them because they had opportunities to do it, for sure.
They should have beat the Niners if he took the field goals. That last touchdown drive would have been the game-winning drive.
He started being a tough guy.
And they were beating him. They were beating him soundly.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped what they were doing. The difference of that game was that fluke deep pass that ricocheted, that should have been an interception, but ricocheted off of the Lions DB. That resulted in a big Brandon Ayuk.
Yep. And we've had a ton of spoilers where we talked about, don't be shocked if we see Detroit versus San Fran NFC title again. And Detroit has another opportunity to kind of right their wrongs.
I got them at 12-5 too.
12-5.
I said they're back in full force pretty much.
Yeah.
Gibbs may miss some time to start the season, but David Montgomery ain't no slouch either.
Nope. He's
more than able to handle the load till Gibbs gets back. The defense is going to be even better. You got another year with Aiden Hutchinson. You got all that front 7 is one of the best in the league, and they're young.
Yep. Good.
Campbell's learned. Too. I think Campbell has learned from last season. I also think Campbell's got this team hot and hungry. I think this team is still hungry. They still got a sour. The Phillies bats have awakened, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that.
Huh.
The drought is over in Philly for now.
It's going to be smiles and kissing babies tonight.
As long as the pitchers don't blow it. Don't underestimate that.
Yeah.
But don't throw Marte out there because that dude's a disaster.
Because Coach Campbell is hungry.
Yeah.
And his players play their ass off for him.
Yes.
There's no taking days. Those players believe in him. They know how emotional he gets. This man will cry in front of him. He was balling when they lost the NFC title game because he said it, this is on me.
And why wouldn't you be hungry? You were at the NFC title game and you knew you had this team on the ropes. You had them on the ropes. The 49ers, the mighty Niners were on the ropes. And you guys had it to the point where they were about to be called the 40 Winers again because you were about to cash in your trip to the Super Bowl. And who knows? Who knows? Like, the Lions would be the ultimate variable. Like, you put them in there with the Chiefs, that's a new animal for them.
We make fun of the Cowboys a lot, but the 49ers got another year of no championship.
Well, listen, the Boston Celtics did it. So we can't compare the Celtics and 49ers anymore.
No.
The Celtics closed, and now the 49ers have to close.
If not, If not, I think it's time to start talking about how you haven't won a championship since 1994. The Dallas Cowboys have a championship in the next year, so you guys are right there.
And Dallas and Green Bay might not be able to beat you, but you know that they're secretly rooting on the Lions to get it done, to just have the 49ers removed from the big picture of the playoffs on the NFC side.
I completely agree.
The sky's the limit for
Rick
this
is watching,
team, bro.
He has not commented yet, but I got the alert.
The limit.
Rick is watching.
And Rick is making his return to the South Jersey Brawlers League. He said he wants to sit next to me for the draft. He is making his return. So
when is it, Saturday?
Sunday. This Sunday, my first draft of the year. Posting my board when we're done. If you're doing your drafts, don't be scared to post your boards. Yes, people are going to talk shit, but I have accumulated some of the best shit talkers in the land in the On the Money Sports Forum. All you got to do is talk shit back. This is the time of year where the shit talking is the most prevalent as we enter football. And we've all got high hopes as far as where our teams are going to be. Where our fantasy teams
are going to be. High hopes.
You can't just go into the bar with a bunch of trash talkers and let them talk trash to you the whole time without you saying nothing. You got to give it back to people. You got to learn how to cut a promo. You got to be able to do it because it's the best time of year to be able to do it. When your team wins that Sunday and their team loses, you let them hear about it.
Yeah, you do.
You let them hear about it. You cut the promo. You get the memes ready. Just like we'll show you documentation from our group chats if you need a 101 lesson as far as the shit talking goes. I'm drafting Heather in the second round. Well, I don't know, man. You also said you're getting a QB. You said you're getting a QB, so we'll see. Rick is already with the mind games. My fantasy boards came in today. Nice. So the fantasy boards for Sick Picks and East Coast Champs. Those are the boards we're talking about here. Sick Picks draft, August 25th. Afternoon draft. It's going to be super active on the Sundays.
I have not yet purchased my for On the Money Sports.
Oh, shit. You're kind of close there.
Yeah, I know. Not going to lie.
Jameson Williams is a sleeper. I mean, yeah, it's somebody who kind of people have a soured on last couple of years, but somebody who this year could sort of remind people, hey, like they need them big advertised.
Because their next other receiver is Khalif Raymond, and after that, it's Tom Kennedy, Doris Fountain, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Their wide receiver 2 is Sam Laporta. That's what it is.
Let's call a spade a spade.
And their wide receiver 3 is Jahmyr Gibbs. And then it's Jameson. Like the pecking order is already there. Like the pieces are there. They have the strong running backs. David Montgomery is going to be David Montgomery. And, Sam Laporta is tight end 1 worthy for fantasy football this year, along with McBride. And Sun God, Mikey's saying he's going to pick him number 2 overall. If Amon-Ra St. Brown goes number 2 overall on Sunday in my draft, like I can't blame whoever's picking number 2 for that. Like, I get it. I understand because I see it. Anybody who's watched that football team knows. Better yet, anybody who's had to go up against Sun God on Fantasy Sunday and he has one of those huge games where you're saying to yourself, he's in the end zone again. Like, I'm not like, that's like, all you need to just experience it from the other side to understand. It's like you want to be able to have that advantage. Sun God is an advantage at the wide receiver position. And if you pass up on him, you better have passed up on him for like a CeeDee Lamb. Because at this point in time, like, there's not many other guys that I'm taking over Sun God. It's just tough because in this draft on Sunday, I'm drafting 10th. I'm drafting all the way at the end. So I got to just see what everybody does and who's going to be there for me and how to make that combo really hit. So I got the Vikings 5-12, Bears 7-10. Packers 9-8, and Detroit Lions 12-5. It's going to be a great pick for us at 8, 10, 11, 13 with all the knuckleheads before us. It's the unpredictability. It's what you don't see in mock drafts is the unpredictable nature of the live drafts that you have with family and friends and the random shit that they're going to do when they go up to the board that you didn't account for, The list of names that haven't been crossed off, where you're going to have to really choose between 3 guys and say to yourself, you know, like, why did he reach
the
for this
meltdowns
guy?
occurring.
You know? Like, why did he reach for that guy? Like, what was he thinking here? You can't underestimate the live draft fact that people are just going to do random shit, and it's not going to be like the mocks, you know, or online. When you have it online, you can look at your little gimmick, and it's going to show you the best available. It ain't like that when you have to go up there and put the name on the board for yourself. My rookie sleeper is Keon Coleman. Great sleeper. I like him a lot this year. And I like where you can get him in drafts this year too. You know, hint, hint, value stack. I definitely like him. And I like the Bills tight ends too. Omar is taking Bills QB first round. What pick does Omar have? Oof. We know Omar is one of our resident Bills fans. We got 2 Bills fans in the Brawlers League. I just don't know what pick Omar is. Can look real quick here. It's probably in the group chat. Me and Rick were in here talking hella shit. But if he were to pick Josh Allen, where he's drafting at, he'd be picking Josh Allen 7th overall. So at 7 overall, the first quarterback would come off the board. He's drafting right before you, Rick. So would him drafting Josh Allen trigger you to pick Pat Mahomes? Like, is this draft just going to fall completely off the rails before the first round is done? Or, I mean, it actually might fall off the rails at 1. We got John, Josh, Mike, Gami, Sid, Juan, Omar, Rick, Miguel, and myself. Yeah. I'm excited to post that board. I'm excited to post that board. I'm excited to talk about the next divisional breakdown. And I think it's only right that this is your home division.
You're going to post that board?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to post it. I'll put it'll be a nice little Sunday night treat in the forum. You know, once I take a look and I digest my decisions from the day after having a couple brewskis. And talking shit with the guys. Also, I'm drafting in a league that it's top 2, top 3 as far as like shit talking goes. The entire time, every round, every pick, you were just promos are being
men
cut.
On first and second with 1 out.
Promos are being cut.
And Alvarado's pitching.
This is interesting. John, you think John State this got a little Rick Grubb mock for Sunday? CMC, Breece Hall at number 2. And Jamar Chase going at number 3 overall.
A lot of people are picking, and I've seen a lot of drafts where Breece Hall's going before Christian McCaffrey. That Madden curse is alive and well, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm seeing it too, man. The back end of the first round is going to look really interesting on a lot of these boards that aren't 2 QBs. Like, you have McCaffrey, you have Jefferson, 7th overall, 8th. Like, Jefferson's going to end up getting picked in some spots where he was getting picked like 3 or 4 years ago before one of the pioneers like myself said, you know what? I'm going to pick Justin Jefferson 2nd overall because I'm not going to be able to wait. I'm not going to go the conventional route and go running back. I'm going for my wide receiver. I'm going for what I want. This year, Jamar Chase is probably going to get picked before Jefferson in a lot of leagues. People like Chase's situation. Right. The day draws near, and the decisions are going to have to be made. Yes. When you get to the board, you're on the clock. You got 3 minutes, 2 in some leagues, 1 in some leagues. What are you going to do? So, go ahead. You can lead us off.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to go to the AFC side of things. A division that's near and dear to my heart, the black and blue division of all of football, where the most physical teams play. Where when you come play any one of these teams in the North, your team's going to feel it the next day on Monday, Tuesday. You ain't going to feel right until about Thursday. You will remember that you played in a tough physical matchup and you earned your victory against such team. However, one such team that will not finish in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in the AFC North are the media's darling Cleveland Browns. I got the Cleveland Browns going 7-10. I got it. Why? Because I don't think Deshaun Watson's any good anymore. I'm tired of everybody defending him.
That's fair.
Tired of everybody saying I need to see a full season. Joe Flacco took this same team that was struggling with Deshaun Watson to the playoffs. Of course, they got their butts handed to them in the playoffs.
But Flacco was making plays, though.
But Flacco got them there.
Flacco was making plays.
You know how the Cleveland Browns could stop from being in the basement this season? Is if famous Jameis Winston ends up playing some games this year because Watson gets hurt and can't finish the season. Also, Jerome Ford's nice, ladies and gentlemen, but he's no Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb, I don't even think is going to play yet. He's deadlifting, and that's all fantastic.
It's a big what if not having Nick Chubb there, because even hurt, none of those guys are Nick Chubb. You know, that guy's.
You know, and how much is Amari Cooper going to bleed Cleveland after the rumors came out that showed that he was a part of packages, and he put that statement out? I wouldn't have even been mad. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't think the Browns are going to be that good this year. I think they might probably be like a 5-3 at the halfway point, and then things just go downhill after that.
5-3, and then everything goes downhill.
I've been wrestling with the next two teams because I think the next two teams could easily be flip-flopped. That way nobody, says Oscar, Oscar, Oscar. You just hate these teams.
Let's hear it.
I got the Bengals at 9-8, which still puts them in the wild card possibly.
Yeah, depending on how the AFC breaks down, yeah.
Joe Burrow's back. How healthy is the arm? Can the arm make it through a whole season? Because we're talking about full ligament surgery on his wrist.
Yep.
Jamar Chase is still not practiced. He's officially holding out. Before he was there, but now I heard he didn't appear at practice for a couple days. Mike Brown's playing hardball for his
interesting
his contract.
I didn't know that.
Not to mention defensively, I believe Hubbard is it Hubbard or Hendrickson? I think it's Hendrickson. He's also not been practicing. He's been holding out for a new deal.
He's not the one that has to be traded, is he?
Yes.
He's the one that has to be traded. Okay.
And you got the whole T. Higgins. T. Higgins knows this is it for him.
Yeah.
Signed his franchise tag, and that's that. He knows after the year he's a free agent. He's probably going to command a lot of money next season. So he needs to produce this year so that he can.
Writing's on the wall.
Yeah, he needs to produce so he can get that big contract. He can't have another season like he did last year, or it's going to hurt him in negotiations, whether he likes it or not.
He won't.
Defensively, yeah, they get back one of their safeties that they had let go the year prior, but they're a year older. That secondary was getting carved up, ladies and gentlemen. There's no denying that. That secondary was getting carved up last year. The front seven's good. I got them at 9-8, but I would not be surprised if they finished in second at 10-7.
Well, everything that you said right there, with all the what ifs, all these different scenarios that you brought up, and the inconsistencies, is why, as much as it pains me to do this, because, I've been accused of being a sympathizer of this football team over the couple of years.
That's because you like Burrow.
I've got the Bengals in last place in the AFC North this year.
Whoa!
I've got the Bengals going 7.
Whoa!
I got a funny feeling about this football team this year. And this could probably be their worst season, and then they'll get right again and potentially be that team that can knock off the Chiefs. But I don't think they're ready for football this year. It's not just because we took their offensive coordinator and made him our head coach. I think it's more to do with what's still happening in that building and what's going on there. And the fact that you look at the track record, the Bengals can't beat anybody in that division when it matters. Bengals don't beat the Browns. Bengals don't beat the Ravens. Bengals don't beat the Steelers consistently. Like, if you can't make it in a division that could potentially send 3 teams to the playoffs, you're that 4th team. That's what that means. You're in the basement.
Damn, we got 4 RBIs from him.
You check the win-loss record.
This is a grand slam.
I love Wawa. Great. One of my best baseball trades was getting Wawa on my team. Should have drafted him. I can't have that same optimistic eye for this Cincinnati Bengals team with so many moving parts that aren't going to be there.
Separates 1st to 4th place in that division.
I could see that. I could see it being a tight race. I could see the Bengals at 7-10. Let me pull up their schedule here. Being in a situation where we're talking about this football team having the opportunity to have won so many of their games, but losing them in the last few minutes. What's this defense going to look like? You know, is Jermaine Burton, the rookie, going to be the one to take the spot of Tyler Boyd? And that's asking a lot of a rookie in a pretty complex offense. Like, they're gunning that ball down the field.
They're going to miss Boyd not only because of his production, but they're going to miss Boyd because of his leadership. And he was an older player in that locker room.
And here's the thing. Their big bread and butter is the connection of Burrow-Chase. I think Chase Brown's also going to be good this year. But I think that Burrow and Chase can connect for 2 to 3 touchdowns in a game, and they still lose. Because as a team,
I think Zach Moss is going to have a good year.
He could. I think that they're going to have a good running game with those 2 guys, and I think their offense is going to be good. But
the defense is going to lose games.
You can have a good offense and just still lose football games.
They could be leaving that field with 2 minutes left, and with a 2-point lead or a 3-point lead, and the defense give up the game winner.
So now,
I see what you mean.
They could start out good because here we've got New England, Kansas City, Washington, Carolina, and then we take a turn here heading into week 5 where you got a couple of divisional matchups, which that to me is if you still can't beat anybody in the North, I can't put you in even the 3rd spot. So I think the other teams are just going to be better built than you as far as like complete teams goes. As far as those 3 other defenses are better than yours. You're the worst defense in this 4-team division by far. You've got Baltimore, New York Giants, Cleveland, Philly, Vegas, Baltimore, the Chargers. And then they end the year with Pittsburgh, Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh. It's not that it's not manageable. It's just these are going to be in a tight race for the division, a lot of tight games that I think the Bengals are going to find themselves on the losing side of. So I've got them at 7-10. Next, I've got the Cleveland Browns at 9-8. And it's not so much that I believe in Deshaun Watson because I, like you, feel like he's not good. But I just watched Joe Flacco take this team to the playoffs. So Deshaun Watson doesn't even have to be outstanding. He just has to be upright.
That contract is going to go down as one of the worst contracts in NFL history.
It's still hideous. It's an absolutely hideous contract. There's no denying that. But I think if he can just stay upright, if he can just make some plays, I think this defense is going to be a very good defense, potentially a top 10 defense.
They should.
With a good schedule on top of it.
I think they're going to be offensively challenged.
I can see where they're offensively challenged. I'm looking at their schedule right now. And in the first 9 weeks, heading into their bye week in week 10, they probably have maybe 3 or 4 really tough matchups. Everything else looks manageable. And for the most part, looking at the second half stretch of their record, like of their season, everything looks manageable there too. So they're projected to get 10 wins based on this Fantasy Football Magazine. I've got them at 9-8.
This is a new one.
Yeah, I got this one at a couple weeks ago when I was out with Heather. Manageable schedule, good defense. Just like, can you do what Flacco did? It's crazy to ask that when you think about the contract and the trade and everything that went into this Deshaun Watson situation. Like,
I'm so
can
glad
Deshaun Watson play like Joe Flacco?
I am so glad the rumors of Pittsburgh. Remember when the whole thing, like when Sean King came out and said, my sources told me the Steelers want to trade for him and this and that. I am so glad they never did it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wild times. At 10-7, at number 2, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I have them at 10-7 as well as second place.
You know, with Russ, we're still on Ayuk watch right now, so it's one of those things where you don't really, I had to go with the information that I had.
Same here.
What I have is the history of the defense, Russell Wilson, the history of what I know from Arthur Smith and the type of offense that he wants to implement out there, play action pass offense.
It fits both of these quarterbacks. It's going to fit Russell better.
A defense that's actually getting a little bit of run support if Russ is, on par.
Bro, they got Patrick Queen, and nobody's talking about that enough.
From the Ravens.
No one's talking about that enough.
You strengthen yourself by weakening your opponent. 10-7 is a good place for this football team. 9-8 is something I could see as well. But it's going to look kind of similar, a little bit better offensively as far as like the product on the field. But, the Steelers are going to be in a dogfight all season long.
We got a real offensive coordinator.
You lose some.
We got a guy that people believe in. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren should have big years this year.
And hey, 10-7, we're talking about a 5 or a 6 seed. Wild card.
They won 10 games last year with the triathlon of Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph.
See, I still see 10 in their future.
Could they win 11 or 12 games? It's possible if Russ's numbers are what they were last year and you're sustaining drives and the defense doesn't have to be on the field as long. Do I think Russell Wilson starts and finishes the whole year? I do. Unless he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Or he really, 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 really stinks.
And if Russ is no good, then I don't know. As far as like with the Steelers, where they land, because you kind of need him to – you need this to be Russ that's rejuvenated, that's motivated to prove, Denver wrong.
This is it.
This is it type of deal for him. So he has to understand that.
So let's see what he does. I think he could be – he just has to be above average and not below average from what they've had the last couple of years, and give this defense time to rest.
I guess similar to
how many games you watch this year where the defense just shuts them out, and in 3 plays the offense goes back out there, and you just see the defense like.
I guess it's similar to Deshaun Watson.
Go out there again,
like similar to Deshaun Watson. It's one of those things of, okay, Russ, can you outperform Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph? Like, can you be better than that? And as long as you're better than that, we can do 10-7.
I think it's in Justin Fields' best interest that he sits. I think he's had to do so much in his first couple of seasons that he gets a chance to sit back and just watch and learn and grasp the playbook, that if, God forbid, something happens that Russ gets hurt, you can come in and boom.
Yeah.
And show the potential was there all along, and the Bears just couldn't open it up. But that's where I think their ceiling is 9 or 10 wins. I got Baltimore winning the division. A game, of course, if we've been following along. I got them at 12-5. Lamar's the reigning MVP and now has the king to hand the ball off to.
Got them at 11-6.
Henry is north of 30 years old, but he should be able to run in this run-happy offense of the Baltimore Ravens that Tom Monken redid last year and didn't really have – Lamar ran but didn't run like he usually does and actually stayed healthy for a whole season. We're going to see if Roquan Smith is as elite as he is, or was it because of having – the same could be said for Patrick Queen too. How good are you separate from where you were when you were together? Their secondary, Kyle Hamilton, is an unbelievable player. Their corners are just – that defense all around is just good. So they should have another year in them. Like, they should be the cream of the crop. Is Rashad Bateman going to finally, in year whatever, 4 or 5, be the wide receiver we all thought he could be?
I mean, I know Zay Flowers is not just being the wide receiver that he was hyped to be.
He had an amazing year.
He has the potential to
and
have
is
an
Mark
even better
Andrews
year.
Is Mark Andrews going to continue to keep his spot, or are we going to slowly see Isaiah Likely get worked into the spot more? because of what he showed when Andrews wasn't in the lineup last year.
I think they run both and they give themselves another wide receiver on the field. I think likely cuts into Rashad Bateman and what people any hope that people are holding on to as far as Rashad Bateman. Isaiah Likely is going to be that guy.
We all cut him last year.
And I think that was like, look, Mark Andrews is still that guy. When you're planning for this offense, yes, you're planning for Lamar Jackson, but you know the big dog.
He's always going to look for Mark Andrews.
Is going to be slashing down the middle of the field. So now you've got to account for the other big dog on the other side, Isaiah Likely, who can grow into his own. We talk about a player that can get himself into that next level this year. I think that Isaiah Likely is that type of a player. The Baltimore Ravens, once again, have an opportunity to unseat the Kansas City Chiefs at the top of the AFC. Like, I think the Ravens are going to have a good regular season. It's just a question of, are you going to be ready for that showdown when it comes? Because I trust them more than I do the Bills at this point. I trust the Ravens more than the Bills. I think the Ravens are the better football team. I think they'll be the ones playing better football this year overall.
Agreed.
I think they take this division. They do what they have to do to get the wins to take this division. I got them at 11-6 and potentially at that number 2 or 3 seed, preparing themselves for yet again another trip to Kansas City in the, AFC title game, unless they have to deal with them in the divisional round.
Which Keller killed me tonight.
It's going to come down to beating Kansas City.
Italian.
And I'm giving the Ravens a puncher's chance to do it. Still.
I get it. The Ravens are always going to have a chance to beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
They will, because, Lamar Jackson's hard for teams to defend. If your defense isn't built to stop them because they're not in your division, where else teams like the Bengals, teams like the Browns, teams like the Steelers, they draft players because first and foremost, your goal is to win your division. So you draft players to handle the players in your division. And after that, it's just matchups. And with the Ravens, we need, there's question marks on them in the postseason. There's no real question marks in the regular season. In the regular season, this team is due for anywhere between 10 and 12 wins a year. Because that's how well they're coached. That's how well their quarterback is. Running backs, like skill position, their defense. Their defense alone wins them 3 to 4 games a year.
Yep.
So all their offense has to do is win another 6.
Yep.
It's what happens when you get to the playoffs. We criticize Dak Prescott a ton, deservingly so, but Lamar Jackson should be starting to be placed in that discussion as well.
Yeah, I mean, he did add another playoff win under his belt this year, at least.
He's losing, as a number 1 seed. His all right, rookie season, you want to throw that out the window, that's absolutely fine. The year where they're the number 1 seed, they got ousted by Tennessee in the first round. Then the following season, they beat Tennessee in the round, and they get beat up by Buffalo. Then 2021, they missed the playoffs, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They got eliminated by Pittsburgh in the final week of the season. Then it was the top. Then, he goes into the playoffs again, and he lose. Like, you can ignore the Tyler Huntley years, but 2019, 2020, and last year, 2023, those failures fall right on Lamar Jackson's shoulders. And a lot of it is also Harbaugh. They only ran the ball 4 times in the second half of a close game last year.
Can't have that.
4 times. It's not like the score was out of reach.
Can't have that against the
It was
Chiefs,
only,
bro.
a 10-point lead? Like, you had the number 1 rushing offense, and you only ran the ball 4 times.
You can't forget how to play football when you're going up against the Chiefs in a game of that magnitude.
They panicked.
And
it also didn't hurt that Zay Flowers, was catching personal fouls after big plays or fumbling the ball going inside, the 5-yard line. So they, in the brightest of lights, they flounder.
it's funny because with the Ravens and the Lions, hopefully they learned from what happened last year. They still have the talent and the coaching to get back to where they lost it all.
The Lions need to get the number 1 seed, I think. I think if they get the number 1 seed,
I think it protects them a little bit.
It prevents the chance of playing outdoors.
And it protects them a little bit.
It keeps them indoors. And an NFC championship game in Detroit.
Now you have San Fran coming to Detroit.
Could you imagine how loud that stadium would be?
You're hosting San Francisco, or you're hosting like the LA Rams
or the Eagles or the Cowboys
in Detroit. After a week, they win the previous week. They come back. They host the NFC title game there. I think
with the Ravens, we don't. They had it.
The 1 seed can't protect the Ravens. Because when the Ravens have the 1 seed, they lose.
Yeah, so it's maybe it's better off you don't get the 1 seed. Maybe it's better off you be the 2nd or 3rd seed.
They need to be an underdog. They need to. If they're going to do this, it's crazy, but
the Ravens are probably the only
they're going to have to do this in Kansas City. Like they have to go to Kansas City and beat Kansas City in Kansas City. It's like you got to do it.
Lamar got the bag. Now Lamar needs to win. He needs to beat, it's fine and dandy beating Kansas City in the regular season, but you got to beat them in the playoffs.
We've given up on the theory of the Bills being able to do it. I don't think they can. It's up to you, Baltimore. This year, it's up to you.
We watched Joe Burrow do it.
And I don't think they're going to be able to this year. They might need another year to get their shit together for that showdown. Baltimore has it all right now. Baltimore can win that division. Baltimore can win the AFC, even if it wouldn't behoove them to, because like I said, the 1 seed will not save Baltimore, because you can go into Baltimore and eliminate them. But it's really on them and the Lions to be able to put in the work this year, take their division, get as high a seed as you possibly can, and go back and face those teams that eliminated you. Go back and get ready to square off against the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs of the world, because there's no other way around it. To be the man, you've got to beat the man. And that's going to be the biggest storyline for this season with some of these teams that we have winning their divisions. Yes, we think you're good enough to win your division, of course, but if you can't beat the big dogs, like that's it. You're just going to hang up. It's a division banner. It's another division banner. There's plenty of those.
Yep.
I've got a lot of confidence in the Ravens. I've got more confidence in the Lions. I feel as though I have a good feel more or less as far as what your team is going to be and what the Packers are going to be. Those are kind of my 4 playoff teams for tonight right there. Browns are on the fringe.
Kenny Pickett being rumored too for the Vikings.
Got rumor and innuendo going on. The Vikings right now are busy in the shadows with everything going on.
CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are not close to a deal right now, but both sides are optimistic it will get done soon.
All right. You have it. A little update on what's going on the home front for CeeDee Lamb, the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, another name that, we're talking about a guy that has the potential to go off the board at 101 in a lot of drafts. He went 101 in our dynasty draft for Kingpin's Dynasty. That's how our draft started, with CD coming off the board. Can't blame you. I feel like he's on that same level as Sun God is. And with the East, we'll be covering that in 2 weeks.
Patriots are trading Pro Bowl pass rusher Matthew Judon to the Falcons for a 3rd-round pick.
It's official.
According to Adam Schefter.
The trade went down. There you have it. Judon is now with the Falcons. I like the move for the Falcons. Falcons will be discussing on next week's pod as we break down the NFC, AFC South. I already liked the Falcons' defense. I think their issue was the fact that they had Desmond Ridder. And you had Desmond Ridder and you had Heineke. And you weren't getting the run support from the offensive side of the football. Arthur Smith was just out there. It was just a mess of a football team. And a stout defense that down the stretch got tired of doing all the work. It was hard to run on the Falcons before. It might be a little bit harder to run on now. This is a nice piece for them to add to that defense. And this could be what helps to tip my decision as far as like who I pick to win that division next week. It's going to be ugly next week. We're talking about the South. So this could be a whole lot of, a lot of these teams are still trying to figure things out. We're talking about 2 divisions with a lot of young teams. Most of them are young quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at Twitter, seeing if we got any.
NFC South, you've got the veteran quarterbacks like, you got Kirk Cousins making his debut with the Atlanta Falcons. You've got Baker Mayfield running it back with his Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Derek Carr. What the hell is the other team? The Panthers. Can it get any better? Because how can it get any worse from what we saw last year? Can Bryce Young develop? Bryce Young is kind of part of that nucleus of Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, CJ Stroud, like the group of young guys that are now the starting quarterbacks. They're not sitting behind anybody.
The South is your forte. If anybody would be able to know about the South and tell us about the South, it's you.
These are the starters. Super excited and nervous as far as my division and the level of competition that we'll have to deal with. And the unknown of all these new pieces in place and the new coaching staff and, getting these guys through training camp in one piece. And now the adage of DeAndre Hopkins being out for a couple of weeks. So what does that mean for everybody else? Our rookie tight end, Josh Wiley, right now giving Chigga Congo a run for his money in training camp right now. So it's one of those things where it's like, shit, like no Derrick Henry. The first season of no Derrick Henry.
The combination of Spears and
Tony Pollard, who's now in a solidified timeshare. Like, he is in a timeshare. Pollard is not the number one. They are both the number ones. They are co-managing the running back position for the time being. And similar to Russell Wilson with his situation, like for Tony Pollard, like this is kind of it, bro. Like if you can't keep up with the young running back and do this flash and dash type of deal, like where do you think you go from here? You're already in a timeshare. You're not going to be able to be a running back one again. Like this could work out well for you and you can remain in timeshares the rest of your career, or this could work out bad for you and you're going to be getting even less time. And
I agree.
All the Cowboys fans who said you weren't meant to do it, they're going to be right. They're going to be justified in their stance. They're going to be like, I told you.
Nick,
I told you what Pollard was.
Dallas Cowboy fan, Nick, said Pollard wasn't a 3-down back.
We got a couple years with you under contract. We'll move on.
It's crazy that Zeke's probably going to be starting for them.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yes. It ain't Deuce Vaughn. It ain't Rico Dowdle. Even though that's who they want it to be, it's going to be Zeke. Zeke is going to be the one, and I will be drafting Zeke because Zeke will be getting the goal line carries, and he will be vulturing the touchdowns. Absolutely. Zeke is back, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought he had a decent season with New England as a
Zeke is back
as a pairing with Ramondre Stevenson. He had games where he did really good.
He had his moments for sure. That can't be denied.
But I don't think he's going to be Zeke of old with the
Zeke. The Zeke of old is something
if you can get
that was going years ago.
700 to 800 rushing yards from him and 200 to 300 yards receiving, then it's a successful year for him.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't wait to talk the East in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got CeeDee Lamb's contract looming. You've got the hard knock.
We're not mad at each other no more. We're on the same page.
Washington Commanders, the big mystery that they
Kellen Moore, who was with Dallas, then went to the Chargers, is now your offensive coordinator, a guy who's been underwhelming the last couple of seasons, and now he's going to rectify that offense.
You still got Sirianni out there.
You got Sirianni. Is there really peace between Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? There's so many questions that will be asked in 2 weeks when we break that division down. The NFC South is just going to be something. To me, it's going to be a 2-team race between the Bucks and the Falcons. Panthers are probably going to finish in last again. The Saints are going to finish in third, I think. But things could change. The AFC South's going to be muddled. It's a crap on paper, there's only one real true team that looks to stand out. But, hey, if Anthony Richardson can play a full season and show that potential, they can challenge the Colts for the division. I mean, the Colts can challenge the Texans for that division.
They could.
And if you're a Titans fan, you're a Jags fan. If you're a Jags fan, anything less than a playoff berth is going to be disappointing because you just pay this guy so much money. you're a Titans fan, you just want to see the
Development.
continued the maturation of Will
You wanna
Levis
see
and the rest of the team. Even if you don't make the playoffs, you want to see something.
Yeah.
So that you know that next year, the 2025 season, isn't about maturation process part 2. It's about trying to make, because the South is normally that division that teams really don't run away with it. It's anybody's division up until that last month of the season.
Yeah, 2 teams will disappear. 2 teams will be fighting until the very end for it.
So
1 team will get it.
You just want to see, is Will Levis the guy? Can Will Levis stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't stay healthy last year.
I can see a scenario.
And what happens where he misses 2 to 3 games and Rudolph comes in and this offense starts flowing? Do you go back to Will Levis or do you continue to go with the flow?
Ride the hot hand. That's what we've seen in recent years. You ride the hot hand. I could see a scenario where the Titans and the Colts are competing for the same wild card spot. Only one can get in. And you could, that could be that same spot that potentially the Browns are competing for, and the Raiders. Like, that 9-8 is going to be crazy, man. That 9-8 can take you anywhere from a 7 seed to a 13 seed.
I mean, at one point, you guys were like 500. You were lingering around.
Yeah, and then everything went to hell. But it's a new regime. It's a new day in Tennessee, and we'll see how far that takes. I'll do a little bit of research as far as really getting this. It'll be like the first time this week where I'm truly just like absorbing my schedule for my team and looking and seeing to myself like what the product on the field is going to look like in comparison to what these other teams are bringing to the table and how we actually do measure up with the rest of the AFC. I know who my big contenders are, the big dogs, some of the same big dogs from last year, the Kansas Cities, the Baltimores, the Miami.
I will say this. Houston ain't surprising nobody this year.
No, the expectations are there.
There's expectations.
There was no expectations last year.
And like I always say, when there's expectations, sometimes it hurts.
There was no expectations last year for this team. They exceeded all expectation because there was none. Now this year, can they be that 12-5 team? Can they win the division that everybody thinks they're going to win? Hell, can they be the team to oust the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC title game like some people are willing to bet on already? We'll see, man. Because the closer we get to the season, the further away we get from how good it looks on paper and what's actually the product on the field that you're putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
So next week should be good. Tonight was good. Nice in-depth look at 2 very interesting divisions, a more established AFC North and an NFC North with a lot of moving parts, with a team that could potentially be top 5, a Bears team that's looking to make a come up, a Packers team that is trying to get back into the playoffs, and a Lions team that is potentially trying to make the push to the Super Bowl. So a lot of moving parts in that division, whereas in the AFC North, it's the dogfight of surviving that division, getting yourself into the tournament, and being one of those like bruiser football teams come playoff time that can just be more physical than their opponent and be able to like win the battle of physicality and potentially steal a victory from a team that on paper was projected to beat them. Like this year, I give you guys a fair shot to beat the Buffalo Bills in a playoff scenario. Baltimore, I give them a fair shot to beat the Bills. I give you guys a fair shot against the Dolphins.
If TJ Watt played, we would have beaten the Buffalo Bills.
Bills will definitely give you opportunities to beat them.
I have said that, and I'll continue to say that if Watt played, we would have beat the Bills, especially when we made it a 1-score game. Watt's the type of player that when the Bills were trying to, which they successfully did, held on to the ball and scored again, he could have made that game-changing play. That's how good he is. But that's neither here nor there. So next week we're going to be talking about the AFC South and the NFC North.
Yep.
NFC South. Excuse me. But do not forget this Friday in Atlantic City will be none other than Cage Fury Fighting's card that will be consisting about 8 fights. But most importantly is On the Money Sports guest who was here just 2 weeks ago, Jose Soto competing against Sutton, Tyrone Sutton, I believe his name was. If you can't make it to the event, the matches will be shown on OnlyFans. You'll have to subscribe to the Cage Fury Fighting's OnlyFans page, and you'll be able to see his pro debut and Jose Soto's pro debut. He has the On the Money Sports team behind him. He has Millville behind him. The surrounding Cumberland County areas behind him. We wish him nothing but luck. Right. We're hoping for a beautiful victory, and when we do, we'll try to get a word with him.
Do it, man. Do your thing, bro.
So we're looking forward to that. So remember, August 16th, which is this Friday, Jose Soto will be making his pro debut for Cage Fury Fighting in a match against Sutton for a light heavyweight fight.
It's going down this Friday, this Sunday. My first draft of the new draft season, the South Jersey Brawlers League. It is going down Sunday night. I will be posting the board. I'll give a specific time frame so everybody can be ready to break the board down, have some conversations. If you have some drafts coming up this week, you have any live drafts where you're all meeting up, you're putting the stickers on the wall, post your boards in the forum. It's draft season. I want to talk draft. I want to talk draft strategy, where you were in the draft, what pick were you, why did you go with the guy you went with, how did you handle the mid rounds? Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Let's grade each other's draft boards. Screw it. It's okay. It's just an opinion. We're doing it to have fun. We're doing it to pass the time because eventually we're about to be deep in playoff baseball and NFL football, regular season NFL football. It is going to get super busy in a couple of weeks. So we're tying up loose ends these last couple of weeks, breaking down these divisions, making pushes in the fantasy baseball league to get into that playoffs, because in September, the show literally writes itself on a week-to-week basis with the weekly matchups and all the news and reports coming out, who showed up for training camp, who's still holding out for money, who's healthy enough to even get to week 1 in September.
Will Ayuk Watch be over by then?
We don't know. All we know is that On the Money Sports will continue to be the most consistent source for all sports talk in the area, doing it as only we can from the heart of Nostalgia Mania here in the On the Money Sports Lounge, where a lot of football is going to be watched and a lot of beer is going to be drunk this coming season. Until then, I'll see you tonight in the forum. See you next week for the podcast. And go get him, Soto.
Until next week, stay safe. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy your preseason NFL action, and good luck on all your NFL fantasy football drafts.